Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Jamf After Dark podcast, a podcast to introduce you to the people at Jamf, learn about what we're up to when it comes to managing and securing Apple devices, along with what's happening in the IT landscape. I'm your co-host, Kat Garbis, joined by my newest co-host, Josh Thornton. Josh, please introduce yourself so you can make your debut.
Thanks so much, Kat. I am excited to be here. As you shared, my name is Josh Thornton, and I'm a part of Jamf's competitive intelligence team. Outside of my normal role, I've also developed an app for Jamf Concepts, which is called Remediator. It's really useful for any admin who wants to review and remediate macOS security alerts using the power of Jamf's platform. And outside of my day job, I have an absolutely wonderful family, the wife and two daughters, and my part-time job is basically chauffeuring my daughters to and from dance class all day, every day.
That's a very important part-time gig, I would say.
The pay is not great, but they certainly appreciate it.
Do you get yelled at a lot at that job if you're like running late and stuff?
No, I'm very timely.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That means you're great. You're great at chauffeuring your daughters to dance class. Well, Josh, thanks so much for introducing yourself. I'm so excited to have a co-host again because I don't want to do all the work. And then also, I am just glad to have another partner in crime, another friend to join. So I think Sean would be proud of who has joined and could never fill his shoes in a way, but you're going to create your own shoes and walk your own steps and dance your own dance. So very excited to have you on here. Josh is going to help me introduce our next few folks. So, Josh, I'm going to turn it to you to introduce our topic and guests since you're already very helpful and helped really foster today's episode. So, Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, today I am super thrilled because we're going to be talking about this new and exciting feature and capability here at Jamf, and we really want to make sure it gets the publicity and recognition that it deserves. And it's called Network Relay. So to help us talk about Network Relay, we have two guests joining the conversation, Iulia and Alexander. Can you introduce yourselves for our listeners and tell us a little bit about who you are and what brings you here?
Definitely. Hi, Josh. Hi, Kat. I'm Iulia. I'm a product manager at Jamf, where I lead the Zero Trust network access solution. I've been with Jamf for nearly 3 years now, and my background is in software development, particularly for networking and cybersecurity companies.
Thanks, Iulia. Yes, and hi, everybody. My name is Alexander Dove. And I am a senior sales engineer here at Jamf, specializing primarily in our security and our networking products. And I guess I'm most well known for that as well, but also for my hugely exacerbated interest in motorsport. That's the main thing that I'm known for across Jamf outside of that, but still. Yeah, great to be here today.
Well, welcome both. Super excited to have
Thank
you
you.
here. And I would say, for those, let's just kind of kick off some questions. For those who have been maybe under a rock, haven't logged into Jamf Nation, maybe they've been busy with a million other things, and they're hearing about Network Relay for the very first time. What is it? What does it do?
All right. So, Kat, at a high level, Network Relay is a new way to connect Apple devices to work applications. Think of it as a modern VPN, but smarter and built right into the operating system. Apple introduced it as a system-level feature. It uses a protocol called MASC, which is a tunneling framework that's built on top of the same networking technologies like QUIC and HTTP3, which power iCloud Private Relay, another Apple feature. But instead of masking your personal browsing, Network Relay is designed to securely route enterprise traffic, work traffic. So, and also instead of routing all traffic through a single network-wide VPN tunnel, Network Relay lets you define exactly what destinations to tunnel. So it's a lot more precise and granular. and because of that reason, a lot more better aligned with the Zero Trust architecture. And that's exactly what we've done here. We took this Apple feature, we combined it with another Apple native feature, the Managed Device Attestation, for high assurance of device identity verification. And we integrated these two into our Jamf solution for Zero Trust network access. So what you get is a system that knows what device is asking to connect, whether it's in a compliant state, whether it's allowed access to any given work application, and all that without the end users having to open any agent or authenticate. So that's really powerful, especially when you think of zero-touch deployments or shared devices or environments where traditional VPNs just don't cut it.
I really appreciate that. That's a very thoughtful answer, and I feel like it covers a lot of ground. Josh, what questions might you have?
Well, I think first and foremost, when is this being released? When is it available for our customers? And which platforms are we aiming to support with that initial release?
Okay, so in terms of the face of the product, it is currently available as a release candidate for the mobile platform, so iPhone, iPads, Apple TV, Vision Pros, and we are on track to bring the Mac devices into the same release candidate availability by JNUC, so early October this year. And our aim is to be in general availability for all platforms by the end of the year. And in terms of more specific platform support, it is supported on the newer Apple hardware and operating system versions. And that has to do with the fact that our implementation is built around this strong device identity, which relies on this managed device attestation. I'm going to refer to it as MDA in short. So MDA works by using Secure Enclave, which is this hardware security module that Apple embeds in its devices. It's what powers things like Touch ID and passcode protection, and it's what makes device attestation tamper-resistant and cryptographically verifiable. So for our implementation, for our network relay implementation to function, we require Mac devices to be using Apple Silicon, so M1 or later, running an operating system 14 or above. And for iPhone, iPads, Apple TVs, we're looking at A11 Bionic chip or newer, running iOS or tvOS 17 and later, and all Vision Pro models because that's all new. So with these requirements, we can be sure that the devices that connect via network relay, they can present this hardware-attested certificate that prove that the device is a real Apple hardware, it is enrolled in the MDM, and it hasn't been tampered with or compromised.
I think that's a great relief to hear about how it relies on Apple's hardware security, not just an identity login that a lot of traditional VPN solutions have used. And we know over the years, a lot of infiltration at organizations has happened because of identity being compromised and a login being compromised. And that's given an attacker fairly lateral access to a networks. And so to hear that this is really embracing much more than identity, but really looking at that secure enclave on device and making sure that it truly is a genuine known device is really reassuring.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. User credentials are a lot more spoofable, there's a lot of emerging, right, attacks on user identity that are prevalent. But whereas the device identity, especially cryptographically backed, it's a lot harder to impersonate.
This is a really good segue. I was kind of thinking in my mind, like, why did we come out with it? What problems perhaps are we solving? And you've touched on a couple. And Alex, I want your input because you're a solution engineer. You're talking to customers all the time, day in, day out. So you, in my opinion, see a lot of the evolution of where we were before network relay and kind of the whys behind it. So I would love your thoughts on kind of why and what problems you're seeing solved out in the wild when you're talking to our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest one to start off with is secure remote access, but whilst maintaining as an Apple native experience as we possibly can on Apple platforms. And this is really, really important. This has been a problem for a long time, particularly with more traditional VPN solutions that don't fit the general expectation around the Apple ecosystem, which is that it's fast, it's simple to use, it's highly performant. So if you imagine as an organization, if we choose a mechanism to secure our remote access that does maintain that expected Apple experience, then we solve some additional problems. For example, we unlock the ability to enable employee choice, something that has been massively proven to show if we allow our users to pick their own devices, the ones they want, 9 times in 10 they'll pick an Apple device, but also that will lead them to be more productive in their day-to-day roles. And equally, when you stop allowing things like employee choice, you encourage other problems. You create problems such as insecure behaviors. Users will just find other ways of doing things. They will circumvent the sort of security measures that you put in place. They will find other ways to work in the way that they want to, not necessarily so securely. So that's another problem that we're solving here with this secure remote access with Network Relay. We're able to actually get users to enjoy what they're doing through work and embrace the platforms that they've got available to them because it's the platform they want to use. Furthermore, as well, as Iulia has already explained, we are increasing the authentication methods for remote access by introducing managed device attestation. There have been numerous problems over many, many years with authentication with VPNs being stolen, being exploited, and this corrects that, it changes it. Identity is secure to a degree, but if we look at more traditional VPN solutions, maybe even further back, certificates are potentially open to exploit and so on. When you introduce this additional mechanism of checking that it is a physically verified Apple genuine managed device, we kind of wrap that certification process in an extra, almost factor of authentication that protects that access completely. And then we start to solve some more practical problems as well. For example, background or non-intrusive and highly compatible secure remote access, which helps organizations unlock some other use cases. For example, secure remote connectivity and encryption before a user has even logged into their device, e.g. macOS, which might enable them to put extra security measures in front of their identity provider, for example. Things like interoperability with third-party and existing VPN tools. This can be something that's very powerful for organizations that have contractors using multiple connection methods, or maybe they need to have people connecting to development environments through separate tools, or maybe they've just got some existing legacy tools that they're not quite able to move away from yet. This unlocks the ability to start moving forward with the future while still maintaining a standard operational procedure level. And equally, it allows users to connect from all locations, and that's even those that are restricted or potentially high risk, and on any type of network. So Wi-Fi networks, mobile data, all kinds of different network types are supported with this type of connectivity. And in terms of the more practical options for users, it removes the need for any kind of user interaction to actually get connected. And this is what I mean by background connectivity. Users just get connected without any kind of interaction or touch points. They don't have to sign in. They don't have to do anything specifically. It just works. And even as an extension of that, there are going to be some scenarios where we can provide potentially clientless remote access with this level of security, whereby there won't even need to be a client on the device to deliver this kind of access. So there's a lot of problems there that we're solving. This is sort of the encapsulation of what we're doing. But I think to summarize it again, back to that first one, it's about providing the secure level of remote access that organizations expect with the encryption levels that organizations expect, in keeping with modern security paradigms, including multi-factor authentication and so on, whilst maintaining the experience that people have come to expect from Apple devices.
I think that's a very thoughtful answer, and I didn't even realize there were so many issues we were solving. I was just like, what problems are we solving? I think it was like maybe one thing, and there's quite a few things that we're trying to solve bundled in on all of that. So thank you for taking the time to explain all of that. And I didn't realize, thinking and putting like my sales hat on, we often say like some of our like, other webinars, marketing materials, like, ditch your old VPN. And some people always say, why? Right? Like, and that's a fair question. Like, well, why would we ditch our old VPN? And now I'm thinking of, the list you gave us, like, well, can it do this? Secure access, discouraging some of those behaviors of bypassing security, the managed device attestation, removing and, identity-based authentication or the need for that, right? I think there's a lot of in the background point that you had made of non-intrusive, highly compatible secure access, like, there's a lot of things that we're solving there that I just simply did not realize. Um,
Yeah, and
yeah.
maybe a quick comment on that point. I think, yes, there are a lot of compelling reasons with solutions like this to potentially upgrade or maybe expand away from what we would describe as traditional VPN. But equally, to hit on that point, this is completely compatible with existing VPNs as well. We are recognizing that organizations aren't always ready to do that. There is a huge amount of work involved in unraveling, so to speak, a traditional connectivity environment that has been there for years, possibly even tens of years. And we're saying this is a process, it's a journey that you're going to have to go on, and we're going to help you get there methodically, introducing this as you go while still maintaining that operational standard that you've had for years. So that's a really key point.
It is, to me, really powerful that the focus isn't on how cool the technology is, which, let's be honest, this is using some really cutting edge frameworks and technologies. But getting back to what problems are we solving, a lot of it is about that end user experience and increasing their productivity. And I know I've certainly worked for past organizations where I have to manually log into a VPN to access my work resources. And inevitably, you're right in the middle of a project when you get disconnected from that VPN and it disrupts your flow, or you have problems connecting. And so it slows you down. And so that end user experience and making it feel Apple native
Mm.
certainly works to increase productivity and make that experience from the moment you open your Apple device so much smoother. Now, I know we're early stages and early days with this being a release candidate. What have we heard so far from some of our customers that are testing Network Relay, and how has it helped them? What do they think?
Yeah, so Josh and Kat, we've heard a lot of exciting feedback from the early adopter customers. Without calling any names, any customer names, just to mention a few of those use cases. One of the most compelling one that comes to mind right now is from a big retail organization. They are deploying these Mac Mini devices in each of their stores. So they're not user-facing devices. They're there to provide redundant network connectivity for things like payments or loyalty program transactions or even printing. So for when the primary systems go down. So Network Relay was looked at as a perfect fit because it can provide this true zero-touch connectivity right out of the box, right? Completely userless. These are headless devices, right? There's no users that can unbox them and can log in with any credentials. So yeah, it was really exciting to see how we were able to support kind of this type of use case, particular to retail organizations that are now looking into ways to have a fallback system in place. Yeah, so that's been from retail. And then we're also seeing a lot of great interest from healthcare, especially hospitals that are looking to reduce hardware costs. What's happening in a lot of the cases is that you have dedicated devices for each health worker, which can be expensive to maintain, right? It can be a hassle to manage. But with Network Relay, access can be granted based on the identity of the device, which is what matters, right, in a lot of these cases, and not the user. So what this means is that hospitals can move to this shared device model where there's a pool of managed iPhones or iPads. that's available for, let's say, take the example of nurses, right? They, at the beginning of their shift, they can come in and they can grab one of these devices and still get seamless access, secure access to the care services that they need to connect without any VPN prompts or without having to log in or sign out or any of that. So it is for hospitals, it is a great way that have this pervasive case of shared devices. It is a great way to reduce hardware costs and simplify management, right? Without any compromises on security at the end of the day.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
You've got that resiliency in, your retail use case with these headless Macs that if their traditional systems start to fail, which for those of you who haven't worked in retail, it happens and it happens more than you would like to admit. But being able to support those devices to make sure that a retail store can run effectively no matter what, that is powerful and has real world advantage for those businesses. And then especially in healthcare, being able to embrace that shared device model, be able to reduce costs. Who isn't looking to do that right now? So those are really great use cases.
Yeah, so those were just examples from, let's say, specific industries, right? But Alex mentioned this before. There is this across industries and across organizations of different sizes. There is this trend of wanting to create a more frictionless access for your workers, especially for the mobile worker, remote worker. You want them to be able to connect to the work applications from wherever they may be connecting in the world, and being able to support that connectivity without any friction. That is the dream, right? So I know Alex and I have been talking to a customer just last week, right? Then that's what they were looking for, an Apple native type of experience. I don't know if Alex, if you wanted to comment more on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Yulia, that's one example of many, right? And I think what I was just going to add here, I think this plays really nicely into the wider story or the wider discussion that's going on across organizations at the moment around the adoption of zero trust, why that is a massive trend in general. The thing we have to keep in mind is that organizations and users are changing the way that they work. They are doing everything mobile. They're doing all of their work out and about on different devices, wherever they might be. And this requires a change to traditional connectivity. Connectivity needs to grow, it needs to adapt, it needs to develop to meet this changing environment. And the reality is that traditional VPN type solutions were ultimately built for office-based environments. There were bridged connections between locations, and they haven't scaled to meet this growing remote access need. And that's exactly what we're getting from customers, is that they are starting to realize how integral that adaptation process is. Even down to little things, for example, where over time, users have got so used to using traditional VPN solutions, they've started to notice that scaling issue themselves. They've started to notice reductions in battery life, reductions in performance on their devices, things that 10 years ago just weren't an issue, but now are critical, make an enormous difference to someone's working life. I had a really amazing piece of feedback from a customer the other day, which was, it seems so minor, but it's so incredibly important. Users are familiar with VPNs these days. They know what they are. They hear about them all the time. And unfortunately, due to stuff in the media, they've often associated them with privacy challenges. So a user sees a little VPN icon popping up on their iPhone or their iPad or their Mac, and they immediately think they're being watched. Now, if you take something like Network Relay, that removes all of that. It doesn't show these sorts of icons. It builds into the native operating system environment. So the user doesn't get that kind of intrusive, privacy concerning experience that they traditionally get from an older remote connectivity solution. And it's these little things that have a major impact, not just on that general adoption of zero trust for organizations, but even into things like reducing the number of support tickets during a typical week. If users are having a better experience, less support tickets are going to be submitted, and that organization is going to run more efficiently, time is going to be saved, and output is going to be increased.
I always think with help desks, one of the top top ways that I have gotten them excited is helping them see where they're going to get a reduction in tickets coming in, because they don't want to spend their time reacting to tickets. They want to be proactive in developing systems and processes to make their customers, their end user customers, more productive. And so it's really great to think about the benefit that that gives a team like help desk or
Mhm.
IT if they're the ones in an organization supporting tickets.
Yeah, someone who's formerly worked at a managed service provider, VPN tickets, I don't wanna say that they're the worst, but I would say top 5 worst
Mhm.
types of problems to try to solve, VPN. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't Alex, or Yulia, but I think Alex, maybe just from your experience, like, with the field, um, are there any other solutions in the marketplace that are offering this? I'm curious because I always wanna know, again, like, what would I be if I'm replacing something, is there something else out there that could do this too? And nothing is coming to my mind, that would do all the things that you and Yulia have listed out, but I'm curious on your thoughts and what you're seeing or what kind of conversations you're having with our customers as you're unpacking this, because they might be comparing this to other solutions, but I'm not quite sure. So be curious if there are other solutions in the marketplace that are offering this as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. The answer, in short, is there are none that are doing this anywhere near as comprehensively as Jamf is. More specifically, what we're doing is unique because we are combining multiple Apple capabilities in order to offer a combined set of benefits all in one. And that is managed device attestation for improved authentication and zero trust access policies. So conditional access or context-based access. For example, if a device is at risk or if a user's role changes, they don't fit the needs of the sort of application they're trying to access, that gets denied. And it's the combination of these things together that is truly unique. There are some other vendors out there that are starting to look at using the network relay component specifically that Apple have offered, but they're only doing so in the simplest possible form. And what I mean by that is tunneling only. They're almost treating it like traditional VPN solutions. They're taking this new tunneling mechanism, but applying the logic from much more traditional VPN solutions. And that's where this falls down a little bit, because that really doesn't realize the true advantages in what Apple are offering here, what they're trying to move towards. You need to introduce more layers to that, e.g., that zero trust policy capability to really take advantage of it, and managed device attestation.
I think traditional VPN is one of those areas where quite often an organization also has to deploy hardware within their network and possibly in multiple office locations, or they're running gateways in a virtual machine and having to manage and configure those gateways. And it introduces complexity. And sometimes that complexity might be required for that organization's needs, but quite often it's just additional complexity and cost. And so I think to hear how we're able to do this using our ZTNA capabilities, using Apple's frameworks in a way that's very easy to deploy, minimal configuration required, and minimal maintenance over time
Mm.
is really fantastic. As we come to the end here and we're wrapping up, we've talked a lot about the different capabilities of network relay and the benefits to end users and customers. Yulia, if you had to sum it up, what are the top 3 benefits of network relay?
So I think I would start with calling out this Apple native frictionless experience, transparent to the end users that don't even need to know or will know that there's tunneling happening on the device. And that's all supported. This benefit is supported because the technology is built into the operating system, and it is deployable via MDM, which supports this kind of zero touch behind the scene kind of deployment. That's why, right, we were able to talk about these use cases in retail and in healthcare, where the shared devices or the devices without the user are so prevalent. Then I wanna mention this strong device identity verification, because in our implementation, as Alex was also saying earlier, it's not just a configuration file that you drop via MDM on the device and you gain access. We gain that access through our zero trust network access engine, based on also on the device identity verified by Apple, and also on the device management status, right? So we're also assessing that the device is a company-owned device. So all this is a huge leap forward for a zero trust type of access control, and yeah, supporting organizations in their zero trust journey. And then, yeah, last but not least, definitely the high performance and high compatibility, because the network relay traffic runs over standard web ports and protocols. This allows it to essentially sail through restrictive firewalls and geographies, and captive portals. And because it is based on QUIC, which is a modern transport protocol, as fast as UDP, as reliable as TCP, the technology supports a very fast connectivity with high resilience, right? Which is are necessary elements, especially in today's landscape, where we all connect to from wherever, coffee shops, on the go, to applications that are pervasively more and more scattered between SaaS and private applications. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm curious. So let's say someone's listening and they're like, "We need this. We needed this yesterday. How can we start using this?"
So if they're a Jamf customer, and they are on a plan that's already affording them access to our zero trust network access capability, so Jamf for Mac or Jamf for mobile would be two of those plans. You can fill out a form to request access and join the release candidate program. I believe we're gonna link this form right to the episode's notes and description, so you can fill out that form there. Otherwise, if they're not a Jamf customer, I don't know, look us up, connect with Jamf,
Become one. That's
become
the
one.
answer there. Become one. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to say one last thing. We're seeing a lot of the customers, early adopters, use this in their production pilots. And besides the technology, which is really cool and exciting, what's been more exciting, particularly to me as a product manager, was learning a lot from the customers' early adoption, right? There's a lot of feedback that went back into the development machine here. So if you want to put it, we are developing this technology and this implementation not only in collaboration with Apple, but also with our customers. So yeah, if customers have Apple devices and you're looking for fast, secure, passwordless, frictionless, I don't know, all the words that we said today, network access, zero trust network access, right? We're excited to have more customers joining us.
Yeah, and I just wanted to second something that was said there. I mean, for a number of years, I have observed, customers sort of being in a position of concern about being able to modernize remote access, because they've seen that process as being insecure. They've been kind of challenged there, where they're thinking, how can I improve? How can I streamline? How can I advance and evolve my remote access whilst keeping it secure as I need? And it's these sorts of developments that allow that to happen. We are making leaps and bounds in the ability to deliver modern access in a secure way. This is a big, big change. But equally, back to what Iulia was saying, this is a complex situation. There are going to be complex networks potentially involved in your environments. So even if you're not already a Jamf customer, reach out to us, talk to us. We will help you. We won't just, talk to you about the products. We will talk to you about a solution, a strategy to start to move this forward. And we recognize over time, this is something that has multiple moving parts, and that's what we're here to help with. And ultimately, that's what Network Relay is here to help with.
I got a final follow-up question that talks about it kind of dovetails off of how we get started using it. So it sounds like in summary, it's that early access program. Talk to talk to the account team. Make sure you're on one of our plans. But um, how do I put this? How heavy of a lift is this? Like, let's say I want to start using Network Relay. Is this gonna be a big implementation project for me, the IT person or the Mac admin? Because I'm already so busy and I'm doing a million things. I have enough projects and having to fix all the things. I'm just putting myself in some of my partner's shoes, some of our customers' shoes, like this sounds so nice, but if this is gonna be a big project that's gonna put extra weight and stress on, on me, I don't know. So Alex, I wanted to ask you because you've been helping a lot with a lot of the customer calls. Um, is this turnkey? Like what would you say this kind of looks like to get started and up and running with it?
Yeah, great question. Well, in short, no, this is super, super simple in terms of deployment. I'm going to call back to one key thing. It works alongside existing VPN environments and VPN solutions that you have. In no way are you going to have to go through the lifting process of unraveling what you've already got. It will work alongside. Therefore, you can treat it as a testing project that won't affect things operationally. And that takes by far and away the largest part of heavy lifting out of any networking project out of the equation. And then secondly, everything we build around our zero trust solutions stack is cloud native. It's built to be agile and easy to configure and deploy. So speaking quite literally here, it is a case of using your Jamf Security Cloud portal to create a profile. It's a one-click integration to put that profile into Jamf Pro or a similar MDN to deploy this to your devices, and then it's one click to get it deployed. It is as simple as that to put the service on the devices. What you then choose to do in terms of which applications are accessible is a simple change within Jamf Security Cloud. It is a policy change, 1 or 2 clicks to do so. And we're even trying to make this more simple for customers, particularly when it is cloud applications. For example, we're providing presets. If it's Microsoft 365, for example, maybe it's Google Workspace. It's 1 or 2 clicks to put that in place and everything's up and running.
I love that. And I think there's a misnomer that sometimes it's like, what is said, but then how it's perceived. And oftentimes we're like, modernize your VPN. And that can be very terrifying depending on which admin you're talking to, right? Like modernize our VPN. And sometimes people think it's a rip and replace. And I love that this is more of an addition to modernize it rather than because I instantly think worst case scenario, like, oh, I gotta unplug, redo everything, and that sounds like a nightmare that I don't feel like tackling. So we're just not gonna do anything. And that tends to be where it becomes a non-starter. So I really appreciate you taking the time to answer that question because I was just genuinely curious. Even though I work here, I didn't know the answer to that. So, um, I appreciate that answer because it's really adding on to the existing VPN versus someone having to unplug and redo all the things and rip and replace a VPN, and that's not what we're saying here. And I think sometimes when we're like, we can help modernize your VPN, people get an allergic reaction to that statement because the instant thought is, I have to go redo everything, and no. So, I really appreciate your all's time for that. I think that's all we got. So, I wanna just say on behalf of Jamf and Jamf Nation, Josh and I would like to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to connect with us. And, uh, yeah, I'll just finalize with don't forget to sign up for JNUC in Denver, and rumor is that I think we're gonna be talking about this a little bit more at JNUC too.
Yes, we will. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So, listeners, thanks for listening today. We hope to see you in Denver and another podcast in the books for me. But Josh, congrats on doing your first one.
Yeah, another one for you and first podcast completed for me. Just a reminder, Jamf After Dark is a podcast from Jamf and it's copyright 2025, all rights reserved. Technical details and product offerings may change at any time. So always check jamf.com for the latest information on our products and services.
You can reach out to us if you have any questions or comments or even suggested show topics and fan mail. Simply send a friendly email to info@jamf.com with the subject line attention to the podcast. We are also a sponsor of the Mac Admins Foundation, and several Jamfs are available on the Mac Admin Slack channel. And of course, if you need support, visit support.jamf.com to open a ticket to get your technical questions answered.
Special thanks to our guest this week, Iulia Alexander. Really appreciated your time. And also special thanks to our audio engineers, Merlin and Martin, who help us sound great. Until next time, for Kat Garbis, I'm Josh Thornton.
And for Josh Thornton, I'm Kat Garbis, and we will catch you after dark again. Thank you. Goodbye. Good night. Good afternoon. And we'll catch you soon.
Thank you.